All right, looks like we are live. Yes, we are. Hey there, everyone. Hitesh here, back again with another live session. So, we are on the spree of bringing you back to back awesome live so that not only I can share my experience, but I can bring in amazing guests who can share their experience. Every individual which I'm trying to bring in here is just on another level. They have so much served in the community. They have so much served in the coding space, and we have such guest here. It's an honor to have such a guest back to back here in this space. So buckle up. Make sure you listen carefully. I'll be asking some questions, and even put your questions in the chat section as well. In between the sessions, we'll be taking your questions as well. And don't forget to join us on Discord and WhatsApp and whatnot, every single place. And yes, the regular YouTube stuff. Hit that like button, share, and all of that. So let me first introduce you to the man who we are bringing in here. He is also a content creator along with a full-time developer job. He is a content creator, and that gives me so much happiness because, of course, you have to pay your bills, you have to do a job, but taking this extra time and serving the community, that's where you raise the bar. So for this, I would like to welcome Dennis here. Hey, Dennis, how are you?
Hey Hitesh, it's awesome to be here. So I'm definitely excited to kind of talk about the YouTube side of things. We were just talking a little bit before the stream, your startup experience and things that we've kind of both been through. So it's definitely going to be fun.
Awesome to have you here. In case those who don't know, Dennis Ive is a seasoned content creator. He has done so many good videos. And even if you have tried to search a little bit on Python or Django side, he's more oriented towards that. You'll find his videos, great quality videos are there. And also, a lot of you don't know, he is also a founder who has sold a couple of products, as well as currently he is serving at an open source community known as Appwrite. So, how is it like to join the Appwrite? Recently, you have done that. So, how that works?
Oh man, that's probably the best experience I've ever had so far. I remember when I applied to the job, they had actually an opening position for Europe. And when I was doing that application, I actually was doing a sponsorship and I noticed it by accident and I almost didn't apply. So when I saw that position, I was like, this is kind of like the dream job for me. I was working in another role at the time, and I was already so obsessed with the product. I'm familiar with the whole backend as a service concept. So when I actually got that offer, it kind of blew my mind. I was really surprised by that. But yeah, I just feel like I have the opportunity of a lifetime to be part of something that is going to be well known. I fully believe in the vision. And to me, I feel like I'm in the early stages of joining something like a Vercel or something like that. It's like I get to be not just there once they're that big organization, but as we're growing. I mean, they're already making waves in the industry, but I get to be part of something like that, and I couldn't be more proud.
Absolutely. Let me put you up on the screen side by side, and now we are both saying that they are making wave in the industry. I think, is a very small word for them because what Appwrite is doing is actually is inspiring every open source creator that this is the potential when you bring the community together. Yes, of course, there is a paid side of it. You have to survive, that's there. But the way how they are growing on the back of community, that is remarkable. So a big shout out to the Appwrite for making this all possible. We are a big fan here of Appwrite as well. We teach them a lot. Our entire team is actually very much a fan of them. Coming back on to you, Dennis, just to get started, how you came onto YouTube? Like, what was it?
So I'm actually self-taught. I've been in the developer industry for about I think 10 years now. Maybe it's 9. But I started off with like the whole Wix WordPress site, and then eventually went into a full stack developer. So being self-taught and having those years of progression, I struggled a lot. I didn't have money for college. When I got out of high school, I had to work right away. Definitely didn't really have anything to lean on. So being self-taught, it's one of those things where I really felt the pain that a lot of the community has. And after I sold my first startup, I don't know if you can really call it a startup. It's more of just like a product that I sold to an organization because it didn't feel so um, built up, I guess. But after I kind of made my exit with that product, I had some money in my pocket, and I really loved the idea of teaching people that went through the same thing that I went through. And it was really intimidating at first because there were so many YouTubers that were doing amazing things, and specifically in the Python and Django world. And I just didn't really know what I can add. But one of the things I did notice is some of those people were they were speaking at such a high level. I mean, Justin Mitchell from Coding Entrepreneurs, anytime I listened to him talk, it kind of made me feel insecure because he just knows so many things. So I was like, okay, well, I know enough information I've had enough experiences. Maybe if I teach at my level and really just not even bring things down, speak at the level that I know, maybe I can serve somebody that is just in that early phase. Because at that point, I was about 2 or 3 years into just being like a back end developer. So I just pretty much started taking everything I knew and started putting that information online. And at the same time, I was learning as I was putting that information out. So a lot of the times I was really studying something myself. I had enough confidence to teach it, but it really required a lot of work to kind of fill in those gaps. So that was really my reason for going in. It was just for helping people out, trying to reach someone like myself, and at the same time, just see if I can kind of make that next step in my tech career. So it felt like the next thing to do after my exit.
Ah, that's nice. This is actually a common thing which I have seen, and I have even struggled sometimes because sometimes you know so much that you keep on talking and building on yourself. You forget that who is your audience, who is somebody who's struggling to get the tech content and barely understand the loops and functions and how this function calls some another values and get the data back, and you just go through on it. So I have to keep myself so much chained up that don't go overboard this, just get it onto the lower, get it onto the lower. So it was such a struggle for me as well. And still to this date, I have deleted so many videos that, hey, I have talked too much over the level. Let's bring it down. Coming back onto side, how many programming languages you have dealt up with so far? Like just throw a random number and few names if you can.
Yeah, I can't think of the number. Let's see. Python, JavaScript, Node.js kind of goes into JavaScript, SQL. Um, I've kind of tinkered with a Ruby on Rails, kind of worked with that a little bit. I'm gonna say at least kind of maybe 8 between everything. It's kind of weird because some things kind of go more into like the API world or into like the framework kind of area. So it's try not to combine
Ah,
those two. But yeah, quite a
surprisingly,
bit. I mess around a lot with different languages. It's like a weekend
You
thing for me.
you
So I
you
usually just try.
mentioned just one of our favorite programming language, which is Ruby on Rails. This is one of my favorite things to work on with. I have never talked about it on this channel, but one of our product in one of our startup, where I am again a co-founder, we use end-to-end Ruby on Rails. And I have seen we actually forcefully asked two of our developers to go into Ruby on Rails. They were JavaScript developers. That was the day, and still to this date, they never came out of it. So, how did you came out of Ruby on Rails? Like, I have never seen anybody coming out of Ruby on Rails.
So I'm definitely not that experienced with it, but it just wasn't the thing that I decided to go into right away. I don't know. It was a coworker that worked in the same co-working space as me actually. So we didn't work together, but he was always talking about what he was working on, and he was building out web applications, and he was kind of showing me the advantages that Ruby had, and I kind of loved it because I can compare it a lot to Django as far as like how batteries included the frameworks were with it, everything that kind of comes with it. So I didn't really have enough experience to really dive into it. So when I say that, it's more of like I tinkered with it. I'm familiar with the ideas and the concepts, but it was just not the right timing for me to really dive into the actual language and really pick it up. So yeah, just didn't fully go head first into it. And I definitely wouldn't like don't ask me questions about Ruby if you're looking for like a technical background, because I'm not the person. It's more of the thing that I've messed with and am familiar with.
Okay. One question I think that you can answer is working on your own product versus working in a startup like Appwrite. Like, how does it feels different? Because a lot of people just compare, oh, I was the boss there. I don't enjoy working for somebody. But I have noticed if you have good people, good organization, you enjoy equally both on the side as well because it's a broader vision you're working. So how is it like for you to have some of your own product and as well as in the content creation space, DevRel space, as well as now into the team of effort? Like how is it for you as an experience?
I actually like it a lot. It's very similar to running my startup actually, and I really treat it like my own product. I was telling Tessa, who's our head of DevRel at Appwrite right now, uh, I really feel like it's my own because it's still in that early phase. As far as like being the person leading things and then being somebody that's just part of the team, that was definitely a shock. But I got more of a shock when I switched to a bigger organization where I was a part of a team of 1,000. That was kind of like the weird culture shock because now like most people wouldn't even know who I am in that organization as opposed to being the person leading it. With Appwrite though, you really are allowed to take ownership, and I really do treat it like my own. So yeah, it's kind of nice to have someone else take that stress. Like sometimes I do not envy Eldad when he's I can see the stress and the threads or some of the things that he's kind of going with. And I'm like, I remember being in that position trying to just to make sure, in my case, it was like make sure the bills were paid, make sure all the salaries were paid for employees. You just think about things that a normal employee doesn't have to go through. Usually it's, hey, do your job and that's it. Where as a startup founder, you just don't ever turn off that brain. In this position, being in a team that's working really fast, we still do work. I mean, it's your hours are a little bit different from working in a big organization, but you feel that in the culture that everybody really wants to make this work. That's
Ah, that's
definitely the exciting part. I actually prefer that over working in a big organization.
Yeah, that's nice. The adrenaline rush is still there, but only that much is there, like how much you want to take it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think a big shout out to Eldad for this one. He's managing things so nicely. We had a few interaction with Eldad as well because we are recommending, personally, I'm recommending Appwrite to a couple of the big corporate clients and they get surprised like, is this going to handle? I said, it is going to handle way better and way cheaper for you. Okay, there's a big shout out
Yeah.
for you from Vivek. He says, your web RTC project is awesome, Dennis.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Vivek. Yeah, that was a rabbit hole that I went into. I remember learning about the technology and I just really got into it for a while and made a few videos on that. And even collaborated with Brad Traversy. It was definitely a fun path to go on.
Yeah, I'm also trying, like before this live session, we were talking about, hey, let's bring more people who are in your connection on the channel so that we can have some fun Q&A session. Oh, there's another one from Prashant. He says, Dennis, do you remember me? I am one of the hackathon winner on a random pick. Because of that, okay, too many that's. Because of that, I bought my first Mac. Hey, big congratulations, man. Hackathons. Were you there at the hackathon time? Did you entered into the organization at that time?
Not with Appwrite. I actually hosted a few with my last organization, so that's
Oh.
where I know Prashant. I'm trying to find the name, so I don't have the dual screen because my Mac wasn't working before the stream. So I'm on my phone checking the chat. I'm trying to remember the last name, but yeah, that was definitely a fun experience just because we really tried out new things with those hackathons. I mean, we even did one that was an hour long hackathon. We basically I had Gary Simon on the channel and we gave people the rules about 15 minutes before, and then they were forced to design things within Figma. We watched the links live, so that was definitely a fun thing to do. But
Hackathons are
yes,
always fun because obviously the money part and something can be really good, but it's like pushing yourself beyond the boundaries in a limited time. So I highly recommend everybody, even if there's a like $5, $10 fees or something like that, don't hesitate. This is the best $5 you will be spending. Luckily, the industry is so much into promoting each other that most of the hackathon you'll find are absolutely free. So I think you should not miss that. This is really best thing. Oh, there are a lot of people fans of you. Fact Trends is another channel or probably user. He says, Dennis, Django course is the best Django course on the internet. Hey man, big shout out on your course. And those who
that's
don't know,
awesome.
go ahead, check out Dennis Ive channel. It's a pretty fun, cool channel. A lot of Python stuff going on. Do you prefer more, what are you writing these days? Python side or JavaScript side?
Definitely more JavaScript. That's the funny thing is, I'm always referred to as the Python guy, but really, I don't teach much Python. It's just Django, and as of the last like 2 years, I've really just been in the JavaScript world. I actually kind of feel bad for the people that followed me for Python and Django, just because I feel like I've kind of abandoned them. But I really got bored with one area in my life. And I'm like, I need to expand my world and do things that I'm interested in, and then that way I can provide more value to them. So yeah, React and JavaScript just, by far the most
It's
the thing that I'm
almost
focused on the most.
it's almost opposite for me. I on the channel I talk like tons of JavaScript, Next.js, and whatnot. Recently pushed a series on Free Code Camp as well. That's purely on Next.js. But during my, I'm actually also side by side pursuing my masters. Now that I'm free and exit from of the startups and world, I'm pursuing my masters again. I'm writing tons of Python there. And the data, I'm all in Python, but on the channel, I'm all in the JavaScript mode. Okay,
Yeah, it feels weird. You're context switching a lot for sure. And you're doing a master's? Are you kidding me? After your exits, and that's
it was
the
fun.
more I'm learning. The more I'm learning about you, this is just nuts. You might just be the most interesting man in the world.
I'm just
I'm gonna take
enjoying the
that title
life.
from Wes.
I'm just
Yeah,
enjoying the life.
absolutely.
Okay, there
for
is
sure.
Tadas Petra. He says, "Hey Dennis, do you remember me? I'm a big fan. A lot of people are overlapping. Big fan. I'm enjoying this." Oh, there's a question from Prashant. He says, "I'm more of a SQL guy and using Flutter and Django for last 3 years. Now I'm looking Appwrite for my next project, but I have no experience of NoSQL. Can you please suggest some tips?" A lot of words there.
So he's coming from the SQL world. I mean, Appwrite's database API is not really going to be relevant to what he's been learning. It's as far as that connection. He's basically asking about using the Appwrite API, right? I'm trying to
Yeah,
read the comment
yeah.
here. Yeah, just start using the SDK, and it's going to be pretty self-explanatory. You won't really need to use too many of your SQL skills in this with this backend here.
Yeah, actually, you don't need any of that. If somebody wants, I can actually open up the Appwrite docs as well and can show you some of the interesting stuffs because that would be really a great thing for a lot of people. There's one. Let me show you the screen as well. So if you have ever been onto Appwrite is more about like this. So you don't need your SQL superpowers there. You can just go ahead and use things like this, select dot, and then provide all of your arrays, how you want to perform the select queries. So there is an API, an abstraction layer written on top of almost every query or syntax that is there. So go ahead and use this, for example, paginations or whatever the database guide you need. It's pretty simple and self-explanatory. All you have to do is, like, you don't need to write a statement for how the queries will work or how the pagination will work, how you want to sort the things. There is a method for it. Use that method, pass the parameter. That's it. You don't worry about syntax. That's what mostly Appwrite is all about. I think I've satisfied that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely it was very easy to use when I first started it. I think they. I think I need to start speaking in we. I think we can improve it. I was actually talking to some of our engineering team coming from the Django framework. Their ORM is designed so well, and that's kind of like the standard that I'm holding Appwrite to. So for me, it's like we're adding relationships. I see the production line as far as what we're going to be putting into this, and I'm really waiting for it to get to that level because I know it's still early in the process, but it's going to be so much better as time goes on, and it's going to be very easy to use with a lot of functionality in it.
Oh, somebody's talking about your slowliness on your YouTube channel. Hey, man, we need creators like you. I'm going to be pushing you a little bit more here. So Arc Pro Coder says, Dennis, one question. Why did you stop uploading content at your YouTube? It's been a long time. Hey, man, I will also push you. Hey, man, we need creators like you. Please upload. When is the next video coming out?
Yeah, that's actually a big reason why I joined Appwrite, because I know that it's YouTube focused. My last organization kind of took me away from that. So it was just a matter of just, having a full-time job and managing YouTube. My focus was in just such a different area to where I couldn't switch between the two. And I was just so bogged down with tasks and that. But I do promise people that it will be soon. It's something that I built up and I'm very passionate about. Definitely didn't abandon it. Just a matter of timing. And that's
Oh, a big shout out here. We brought in Dennis back onto his stream of videos. So expecting some new take on bun or something. Hey, have you been taking the notes on the bun, which is recently making a lot of hype?
I haven't. I'm one of those people where I always wait for something that's on a hype train to kind of cool down, and then I look into it. I'm actually not that good at staying up with those kind of trends. Maybe in the AI world, I did start working with the open AI and all that, but with Bun, I'm just more of like, let's see once it settles down, and then I'll start looking into things. But I just need to sit down and watch a crash course and take some notes.
I'll give you some of the notes on the bun as well, probably share with audience as well. So definitely some of the things in the bun are marketing gimmicks. I know that. I am coming up from a startup background. We need these kinds of hype to actually get attention. So definitely some of them is there in the bun. All those metrics that you see, hey, this is benchmark, and not really. They are being made in the ideal cases. That is, I'm openly saying that. But I think there are some places where Bun is performing extraordinarily well. And those places are especially the serverless. Because in some places, especially nowadays, we have everything on the edge. There's a database edge, there's a function on the edge, everything is just nearby to us. I think in those environment, Bun is going to be the standard in a couple of years. And that is going to reduce down the bill if Amazon wants it to be that way. uh, because this is going to be a big if. Because cloud service provider, they charge more for the edge cases. It doesn't cost that much of compute power on the edge, but I think Bun can actually reduce down the cost. Anyways, there's a nice comment for you. Fact Trend says, I have seen a video of Dennis where he shared his story of how he sold his website for 41,000. That's a good one.
41,000. Yeah.
41,000. That was a huge source of motivation for me, and also because of that, I landed my first client. Oh, that's really helpful. So you shared a story, and it's helpful. So what is this story about? What was the product? Can you share with us?
Yeah, so it's funny because on the video it says 41,000. The total price, as we are talking before the stream, was actually 61, I think, so somewhere along those lines. But I'll kind of break that down. So, long story short, I was actually this is between the time when I had my marketing agency. We're like doing WordPress websites, coding up themes, and so on. I decided to kind of exit that world. I was dealing with a lot of burnout, and I was tired of managing everybody on that team. It was just really difficult to do. I was 19 years old, so you can imagine that stress. And I ended up taking a job at this fuel laboratory where they basically just analyzed fuel samples, so like diesel, any petrol products. And when I was there, I only knew the front end side of coding, but I didn't know anything on the back end. I couldn't build out a server or anything like that. But I really wanted to, and that was kind of like my lifelong dream. So while I was doing like marketing stuff, SEO, working with their website, I noticed that this system that the company had, it was basically the platform that would take in sample data from the chemist in the lab, and they would have to input this data and then send it back to clients, like the results to the test that we ran. So I actually taught myself how to code in about 3 months. I would say that was kind of like the time span. And when I say taught myself, I didn't go from A to Z and master everything. It was just like I taught myself enough to start building.
Learn on
So
the
I
go.
basically, yeah, exactly. So I basically decided to rebuild this product that we were using because that one was outdated, and I decided to pitch the idea to basically have this new system. I actually went to Microsoft Paint and I drew it up that way. So I didn't use any fancy diagrams or anything like that, but I made this prototype of what I thought this new system can be. So I ended up getting an okay for that idea, and I started working on it. And it took me about 6 months to take it to production. And basically, we had a more up-to-date, modern laboratory management system at my organization. And from then on, that was basically my job was, outside of my marketing stuff, it was to build up and manage this system. So about 2 years of managing that, we kind of had this weird arrangement where my boss, I don't ever like to talk harsh on a past employer, but he wasn't the best person when it came to being honest with certain things. And I ended up having to cover a lot of server costs. I never got paid for the actual job. So we had this agreement about 2 years later, and we had so many clients on the system already where we had to decide, hey, what are we going to do with the system? Because I'm not going to work here anymore. I built it. I never got paid for it. So the exit strategy was basically to sell the system to him. I actually did have one investor who put in $20,000 into this, that kind of bought into the system with me and helped me out financially because I wasn't making that much money. So that's where the entire sale was $61,000, and my cut out of that was $41,000. Not a crazy number. 2 years of work. I mean, you put that down to an hourly rate, I'm making probably under $10 an hour. So not exactly a programmer's salary, but it did give me my head start in my career. And that's where a lot of people enjoy that story, because it was a story of overcoming all these obstacles, learning on my own, and just getting the task done. And I'll tell you right now, if I looked at my code, it was terrible. I would never code like that again. There were so many mistakes that I made, and so many things that I had to learn on the go. But because of that, it built up that foundation. I mean, took on more stress than I ever needed to, but it left me with experience, and it left me with money and a good story. And yeah, I shared that on my YouTube channel, and it got over 1.6 million views, I think. And it kind of just blew up. And I didn't think anybody would really care because I didn't think it was that great of a story. It's just, yeah. So I started sharing those kind of struggles. I did some more personal stuff after that, and people seem to really like those. It feels weird for me to share because I don't like talking about myself too much. It's just not the way I was raised in my family. It's like, if you're talking about yourself, it sounds like you're bragging, so don't do it. But yeah, it takes some effort to go out with
if I
those.
may, I would like to put an advice for everyone here. A lot of people come from that kind of a family that, hey, don't brag yourself, don't share things like that.
Mhm.
But over the years, I have met so many people. We have done lots of meetup in India, and there are like 5,000, 4,000 people who show up on the ground, and we were like, hey, wow, how these people actually came up? Is this a real number? And people have personally said to me that you might think that you are bragging, or you might think that this is not relevant, but we sometimes want to hear about your coding experience and how for loop works and everything. But one thing which YouTube gives us is your raw experience. When you share what
Mhm.
happened to you openly, that is the most valuable advice, and there is nothing that can match this. So I would recommend you to Dennis as well. Your stories are already blowing up. A lot of people in the comment section are saying, "Hey, we missed those stories." So never feel like you are bragging or something. Whatever it is, if you think that I should share it, go ahead, share it. It's a really valuable resource. Like somebody was mentioning in the comment section, because of your stories, he got a first client or something. Like, what is better thing in the world to do when you are just sharing, sitting at your home? We are sitting at our home and inspiring thousands of people and allowing them to make their first money. Like, I don't think so there's any better job than this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I kind of work with is making sure that I understand it's not about me and people need to hear this. So if I'm not sharing it, I'm actually taking away from the world. So that's really hard to do, but I've started seeing it that way and it's definitely made me more comfortable. And you'll still get people that will make comments, and you're on YouTube, Hitesh. You understand this. You have to get thick skin. I laugh now. I'll show my wife some comments that I'll get, and it's actually funny. Like, I don't mean it in a sarcastic way. Some things I'm like, I can't even imagine the person that wrote this, you know? So it's
my
definitely
my
entertaining.
wife my wife still can't read all the comments on the YouTube because she's so afraid. Like, if you're putting your night out there, sometimes you are sleeping at 5 o'clock in the morning, yet somebody is saying so much rude to you. And I says, no, he's not rude. He's having a bad day. He's just using YouTube
Yes.
as a medium to throw out his frustration or whatever it is. It is not intended for me. If it is regular intended for me, I have developed a pattern to block him. My mental health is way more valuable than just one person abusing me online. Oh, there's a nice thing by
Absolutely.
Saurabh. Saurabh, hey, this is something we should screenshot and send it to Eldad. Appwrite now used in government portals. Now, government officials start appreciating the power of Appwrite also. I started using it in a new project. That is a benchmark.
That's exciting. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot of those stories real soon too.
So
A
I
lot more of
think
those.
I think we should, somebody from the team, if he's watching, just screenshot it and we'll tweet it to Eldad as well that hey, we are actually on a good track.
Yeah, it's definitely surprising switching to Appwrite. I remember hearing a lot about Firebase when I was kind of going through my career. I'm a backend developer, so I prefer working on the backend. So it was really weird to make that transition, but I really started kind of adopting this idea of having the backend abstracted for me, and I was really hesitant for a while. And Appwrite was actually the first tool that I used where I fully built out an application and tested it, and I thought it was just the coolest thing ever. Again, I've tried other tools before, and it just wasn't enough to where I was able to say, hey, I have enough experience in this, I'm used to this, I know how it works. So once I dived into it or dove into it, it made a lot of sense. And I still am kind of working on the use cases of, hey, when do I go with building out my own backend? When do I use something like Appwrite? And I'm finding more and more reasons to use this tool, especially with the custom functions and seeing how it actually scales, and then also knowing when I can use it to build out some kind of microservice or maybe build a product and get it to MVP and take it from there. So it's definitely a switch for me.
I also enjoy Opera. A lot of people don't know this. Let me share this. When the Firebase was getting built, especially when they were writing the SQL side of Firebase, there was a product that was later on added to the database side of it, because I have actually unofficially worked with Google on that thing. I was a contractor because in a lot of big companies, they actually put this hiring onto some other company, and via that you work onto this big companies. This is a common way to hire contractors. I was one of the contractor. I was working on the testing phase of the Firebase. So yes, I have worked in that team as well, and I am closely monitoring what's happening at the Firebase as well, and as well as Appwrite. So yes, I've been onto both team. Oh, there's a super
That's
chat. There's a super chat. It says, why Appwrite written in PHP? I think I'll take this one first and then we'll go with your opinion as well. A lot of people think that something is new, that means it's the coolest and it's the best thing to do the job. Like if somebody would start and he is just having 1 or 2 years of experience, he would love to build an app right in probably Golang or Rust or something much more fancier than that. But what I've learned over the years, the tool doesn't really matter. And the performance that you're thinking it will give a bottleneck, it rarely does give you a bottleneck. It's your resources or how you write the code that gives you bottleneck. The technology is still rock solid. If you write anything in just core JavaScript or just the core PHP is as equivalent as powerful in Golang or Rust up to a certain scale. Obviously, when you reach to a scale like Dropbox or maybe something crazy, then obviously you need more power and more firing of stuff. Then we can fight at that point of time to build it in Rust or C++. But in most cases, you don't need to go that fancy. What's your take?
Yeah, it's funny. I absolutely love PHP, and I don't use it. Like I love how it's recently gotten so much more hype because it's been the one that everyone's doubted for so long, and yet it's just been the most consistent and performant for so long, and it just kind of fires back against all of that. I'm still actually trying to study. We actually have a section in the onboarding process, and it's like, hey, this is why Appwrite's written in PHP, and it kind of helps us respond to this question. So I'm trying to understand that, but to me. My question is always like, why not? When someone mentions that, it's like, well, what are your objections? And as you said, it's like, well, what kind of performance are you looking for? What can it not do? If it's just to jump on a hype train, well, then no, we're going to stick to the language that's proven and has been there. But a lot of people usually pick that language that's in the market right now and that has all the latest buzz. But I just love PHP for that, and it's funny because it was actually my first language when I was working with WordPress. When I used to go through the templates and try to understand how things are put together. But yeah, I just say why not.
And
That's the best answer I can give right now.
Tessa is also here. She mentions that PHP got bad reputation because of the older version. It isn't bad so anymore. It was never bad. If anybody to
Yeah.
this still date, if I'll show you how the Laravel just puts out a boilerplate code, you will go bonkers that how powerful the Laravel is. Even Django or Express, nothing comes close how much it gives to you in the Laravel. Just try a to-do app or a crash course in Laravel. I'm pretty sure some of the YouTuber might have put it out. And you'll go like, hey, where this was hidden from me for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I've never really experienced any negative things with it. PHP just needs a good mascot. They just need to find somebody that can help hype it up, and it'll be the next thing we're all using.
Oh, man.
It's marketing.
Yeah, it's marketing. PHP actually went a little silent on the marketing side. Node.js guys did very well in the marketing side.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
one
absolutely.
question which I ask to everyone. I'm sometimes like, why I'm asking this, but I'll ask you as well. I ask to everybody, will this generative AI or the chat GPT will replace developers? Your take.
Oh, absolutely not. I'll make that the first answer, but it's going to replace different tasks in different ways. Like I'll just give you an example right now. I'm using ChatGPT on a daily basis in my research in building, and all it's doing is it's making me insanely productive and fast in what and everything that I currently do. If I have a bug, there's so many times where I'll have to sit there and look up articles, try to figure all this information, and scan through stuff that I don't need. Whereas I can do a search, and there are ChatGPT is I know it's 2 years behind. I think it's trained on 2021, but there are tools that you can use that give you up to date information. So it only makes people faster. I know that there are certain things that it's going to take it. This whole thing that Vercel is doing with generating UI snippets of code, like
Oh
it's only going to
yeah,
do so much.
that's
But
a crazy one. What's the name?
that
V
one is
zero? V
V
zero?
zero, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think let me search this and show it to people as well. That's
it's
new.
absolutely amazing.
V0 Warcell. Yeah. I can share my screen as well. Just give me a minute and I'll share that. A lot of people don't know about this. This is the V0, a chat to build the sidebar. Right now it's in private alpha. I'll apply that. But just look at this, how good this is. You can just have so many versions and variants. All of like, why do I even need to learn any of the CSS when it can do this? I think that's really a great use case of generative AI. I'm super pumped up for that.
See, even with that, it's not going to replace CSS, developers or UI, designers. It's going to be something that they're going to use to make their life easier. They're going to have to find ways. It is going to replace certain types of people, I would say, just like a lot of these platforms like Wix and WordPress replaced developers that were charging $15,000 for an HTML and CSS website back in 1990s. Like it changed the game. But since then, it's funny because the development industry has actually gotten more difficult. There's just so many more things that you have to learn. I feel like salary has only increased actually in a different way, because now it's like I need somebody that knows all these frameworks, all these tools. It's really just adding to that. Now, where it's going to go in the long run, I don't think anybody can fully predict it. But once you understand how it's actually being used, I don't think you'll have the fear of, there's that joke of a product developer, a product manager that is trying to put out a task, but they can't explain themselves what they want. How are you going to expect them to tell an AI, hey, I need this type of website that accomplishes all these things? Coding is not that easy. I feel like if you don't understand it, then you kind of fear it. But the work that goes into something like that is just not going to be done by an AI, and it's so far behind. I don't ever see it fully replacing anything there. But we are going to have to adapt. That's for sure, because your coworkers that are coming into the industry that are 18 years old are going to be using these AIs. Are going to be great prompt engineers, and if you don't adapt to that, and you're later on in your career, that's going to be difficult because they're going to have a leg up on you while you're still doing things from scratch.
Absolutely, 100% agree. It's almost like saying that in this age, do you write all of your code in the notepad? No, because we are used to of IntelliSense. We need those suggestions. Yes. I don't perform well without those suggestions. Now these suggestions are on steroid with my GitHub Copilot or Whisper from AWS, whatever you're using. But I am actually definitely using one of them. It improves my productivity. I'm able to write things faster, which I'm writing. Like I've already written that array of objects in my head. But to write that, it takes keyboard time. But when I have GitHub Copilot enabled, it's just a tab away. I know that it's there. So I think that's where we are moving ahead.
And you still have to understand it in order to do that too. You couldn't just...
There are a lot of wrong suggestions. There are a lot of wrong suggestions. Just like, it's almost like feeling I'm going through with the Stack Overflow. Question, answer number 1, 2, 3. Sometimes 4th is my answer. I want to pick that code snippet.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know... So I know Bard gives you up-to-date data, correct? I was talking to this with Tessa, and I still need to use it, but I've been using a platform called find.com. It's PHIND. And I absolutely love it because it's replaced Google for me. And what it does is it actually uses the Google API, and I believe it uses serpapi.com, and it runs a query, and it basically pulls up, let's say, like the top, let's say 20 results, right? And it quickly trains on those pages, and it gives me that information summarized. So what I normally have to do is I have to go through all the top results, and I have to sit there and read articles just to find that one snippet or that answer that one question that I had about a particular topic, where now I get it summarized. And what it's going to do for me is it's going to point me to the article where it got that information. So it's not just giving me information like ChatGPT sometimes just tells you stuff, but you don't know where it came from. So something like Find will actually point me to the source. So my research, I mean, I have to, I don't know, I've never put a number to it, but I got to say it's got to be 1,000% faster when I'm looking for stuff, or when I'm even, just reading the docs somewhere. Like if I need an answer, I'll look it up. Even with our own Appwrite documentation, I'll pass in a function and I can't find our documentation in a particular area. And then I'll read about it, and it'll point me to that section in our docs. I'm even searching our own website using Find. Like that's AI for you.
Yeah, I also recommend this. Like recently I was teaching Appwrite on my Hindi channel, which is another local language which is spoken in India quite well. So I always recommend to people that, hey, sometimes the code exactly that I'm writing or the code exactly in the documentation, you won't be able to understand it. Just pick that code and ask the AI, hey, I don't understand this piece of code. Can you write more comments on it and give me some context to understand it? That is your assistant always nearby to you to understand. It's not easy to understand those arrays and objects, what's returning as a document, what is even the first place, the document. Is it an array? Is it an object? How do I convert back into? These are common questions. Everybody asks these questions, even after having 10, 12, 20 years of experience. No shame in that. Ask AI for that.
Yeah, I think the keyword is assistant right there.
Yeah, so. Okay, so a lot of people are mentioning Codium as well. Have you tried Codium? Too many AI tools to keep track of.
I'm not familiar with that.
Even Find that you give me with the P, I just saw it and I shared it on the screen as well. I'll definitely give it a try. That's something new to learn. And that's what I love about the conversation with other fellow coders. There is always something that keeps on coming. You're working on something, I'm working on something. I love these conversation that goes on. Okay, moving on to another thing. Hackathons. Is there any hackathon coming up, going on with the Appwrite as well, or anywhere else? Like, is it something you're aware of?
Yeah, Appwrite has one going on right now. I think we started it today or yesterday. I'm still newer, so I'm trying to kind of keep up to date with everything that the company's doing. But we have a 1.4 light. Is it Lightroom hackathon? I think I'm going to get this name wrong. But basically, it's built something with an Appwrite function, and yeah, that's going on right now. I don't know if I can find the resource. Maybe I can share it somewhere here. I can try to find it. But yeah, that's going on before Hacktoberfest. So it actually ends right when Hacktoberfest starts. Appwrite is one of the sponsors to Hacktoberfest right now, leading that with DigitalOcean. Forgot what the other sponsor was, but we'll be doing a couple of streams with that, and I will be helping manage Hacktoberfest as well. So two major ones coming up. One going on, the next one. I think a lot of people are aware of Hacktoberfest.
Oh, one time there was a super mess in the Hacktoberfest. So just one.
Yes.
That got started by changing, hey, do some change in the README file. And there were good things and bad things about those hackathons as well. So I want to bring some attention on the hackathon. One bad thing that happened is a lot of PR requests which were not supposed to be there. Really bad. So sorry for that entire community. But one good thing was it got such a massive awareness about it. Uh, what is your take? Like, how should one get started in the hackathons as well as on the, let's just keep a hackathon aside, just on open source? There's a lot of buzzword right now around that if you contribute in the open source, I'll get this $1 million job. What is this? What's your take on this one? Is this open source like that? Do open source get a job? Or what is
No,
open?
absolutely. Yeah, it's a great way to start networking and seeing what's going on out there, especially if you are self-taught. A lot of people in university are having those peers that they work with, and that's usually how they'll get jobs because they get recommended. They understand that networking process. But for a lot of people, for someone like myself, I wish I had that open source community because with that, I'm able to kind of put my ear to the ground and see what people are talking about, what they're doing. And I would highly recommend if you're just getting started, just to start watching what people are saying online and how they're committing, how they're submitting issues to these specific repos. If you don't know how to do it, I mean, definitely watch some videos, but pay attention to how things are going on and see where you can get involved with that. I actually ran an open source project in early 2021. And from that open source project, I've hired 5 people. And one of those people, I actually ended up getting a job at my old organization. He's still there. He was my designer. People just would come up and they would start contributing code, and I didn't really understand the concept of open source or really understand how people contributed to it. And these people were putting in all this effort. So what that did for me was anytime I needed to hire somebody, I would go back to somebody that I work with because we would work in Discord channels together. I'm familiar with who they are. I know their style. I know what they are capable of. And that's the first person I'm going to, as opposed to having to go look through all these applications and try to figure out and study this person. Going through that interview process, you can only learn so much about someone. But open source is a great way to start networking, but also show off those skills. And yeah, I just think it's probably one of the biggest hacks right now. And the first thing that I'll probably recommend to anybody is get started there. And
But
definitely
the
be active in the
but the
communities.
intention is always about helping the project, helping the community, never about I'll do this and I'll get a job. Because the
Yeah.
intention, the soul of the entire open source is I'm building something where I face the problem, I'm solving it for the community. And eventually, since doing that is not an easy task, you need to actually understand somebody else's code, have to tweak
Mhm.
around it, then have to have Git skills to make that pull request, properly draft a pull with all the lines and everything necessary recommendation. So I think this mindset of do the open source, get $1 million job, I think that needs to go away. It should be more taken up as it is one of the opportunity where I can do something good.
Yeah, absolutely. If the whole job thing, I think you can go into it with some kind of take, I guess. Like you don't always have to just be giving and giving. What you could do is, or at least this would be my recommendation, is go into it as I'm going to help, but I'm here to network, just to gain
Yeah.
a friend, not necessarily meet an employee, but most I can't say most, but I know that there's such a big percentage of jobs that are given on a referral. So if you're there just to network and make a friend, go learn new stuff. I mean, go ahead and come in with that intention. it's absolutely going to do well for you. But if your expectation is that job right away, you're going to be let down because a lot of times you might not get it, or maybe you're not going to do it correctly. So just go in there expecting to learn and meet people and then learn from those people.
Absolutely. And coming from somebody who has done a couple of exits and founders and company and whatnot, I would give up any job to have a better network any day. Just ask me, because what I've noticed is the amount of network that I've built in last 4 or 5 years with the investors, with fellow YouTube creators and coders. I'm living out like, if I need 10 coders to build a product, I can do that overnight. That is kind of a network that you should have. So always go for network, and that network, open source is the hack. Hackathon is the hack.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that whole network comment too. That's the most important thing, because I know if I'm out of a job, I can go get one. I can talk to people that I've worked with. I know that anybody that, because there's a few people in my field that I'm like, these guys are the ones that I'm going to work with for the rest of my life. So anytime they're out of a job and they reach out to me, I can't guarantee them something, but I'm always keeping an eye out for them. I'm paying attention to job positions that are open, whether it's in my own company, other organizations, and I'm just going to vouch for them and always be speaking on their behalf. That's way better than going out and handing out resumes. You have people helping with that process, and it's absolutely amazing.
And
You'll
if you are into the network, sometimes even when the job description is not ready to post, you can recommend somebody, gives a referral just within the internal team, and there's no posting outside. That people get hired with just your referral.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a stat on that. It's like, I don't know how you measure it, but it's like you're 50% more likely. I think it's more, but you're 50% more likely to get hired if you were personally referred to a job, meaning from somebody within an organization.
Yeah, of course. In one of the organization recently I worked with, like I did give a recommendation to almost 40 people. They were all students and known friends. Almost all of them got hired. A selected few obviously got rejection. But it was almost like 85 to 90%. They all got selected, and the team was built really fast. We built so many great things. Great, man. Okay, so it was a great conversation. Now, if you guys have any question, I know I have stolen a lot of Dennis' time. Oh, by the way, the bag is looking really nice at the back. The Appwrite. Oh,
Oh
that's.
yeah, I just got
I
that.
didn't got that. I need to openly ping and message some people. I need some
I was gonna
stuff.
say you should absolutely be getting that.
Yeah, I should do that. Okay, anybody having any question, any doubt, anything that you would like to ask Dennis? We have already convinced him to get back onto YouTube channel. We would love to see more tutorial from him. I'm a big fan of your work as well. Keep on doing. Community needs you. Keep on doing that. If you have any question, just put that in the comment section for next 5-ish minute. We will take your questions as well. And by the way, a lot of people watch these live streams and stuff later on in the day as well. So obviously, it's Friday night. Almost Friday. Okay, there's one question for you, Dennis. It says, why Appwrite have different SDK for web, Node, and TypeScript? Any particular reason behind that for web, SDK for Node, SDK for console? Oh, that's cool.
I'm trying to figure out the angle here. Different. Well, there's a SDK for web, and then we go for Flutter, iOS, and Android. Are we talking about maybe the runtimes on the server side? I
Yeah,
think
because
that might be what they're referring to. So with the custom functions, you just have different options. I mean, you can, if you're building a function, you can build it in your preferred language. Where I believe other platforms, like there's one that they only have Dino. Appwrite tries to give you all of those. They actually added Bun, Node, PHP, Python. I think C plus or C sharp. I think. Which one was it?
yeah.
Oh, .NET. Sorry, .NET. That's what it was. So yeah, those are just for the server side things. That's so you can build with your tools. That's yeah. Those are usually for the functions.
Yeah, I can check it out quickly because I just saw that there was a list. Even I saw that in the functions. If you go ahead and let me just share the screen. There we go. So if you go ahead and try the quick start and check out all templates, in all the templates, if you check out the runtime, look at the crazy. It's a Dart. It's even Bun 1.0. Oh, gosh, man.
That's not common, by the way. That's not common with backend as a service platforms. A
Yeah.
lot of
Why
them
is it
should
at
just
the bottom? It should be at the top. Oh man, that's Node.js, PHP, and whatnot. It should be at the top. You're supporting Bun.
Yeah, I definitely need to brag about that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Did you see we finally got Appwrite 1.4 on cloud though, right? You're aware of that?
Yeah. I
I
actually,
was excited about that. There's a lot of work that went into that.
and there is so much more that you skipped. Probably you need a blog article or something to actually mention all the details. It is so much there.
Someone
Okay.
says, just ask Dennis to say hi, Haroon. Is that how you pronounce that?
Ah, yeah, probably. A shout out to Haroon. Yeah.
Haroon.
That's a good thing about me, which I love absolutely, that I am able to speak more than English. That's really an advantage that you have. I speak a lot of local languages in India as well. And I can understand Spanish. I can read Spanish. How many languages do you speak? I'm pretty sure you are also bilingual.
Yeah, so three. Yeah, so I was born in the U.S., but I speak Russian and Ukrainian. So I have parents on both sides. I actually grew up or my family was pretty much settled in Kiev originally, and then we immigrated here in '91. So we have a big family, but I was one of the early ones born in the U.S.
You should try some tutorials and some segments in between with the Russian, because I don't think
Oh
so. There
my!
is anything cooler than learning from a Russian coder who is teaching on YouTube. I think that could be your game.
It's I found a couple of channels that teach in my native language, and it's so intimidating though. Because I speak it to my mom, I'll speak Ukrainian. To my dad, I'll speak Russian because that's what that's just their languages. But when it comes to like speaking fluently to people that were like born and raised in those areas and know the language, oh man, I probably have such a bad American accent. Like I can communicate very well, but I think that they can tell that I'm not from that region.
But you should try a few words, man. We would love to see in your voice how does the Russian sounds. It would be pretty cool actually to see. Okay, there's one question. Here's an interesting one actually. Uh, Amartya Anshuman. He says Red Hat, HashiCorp. Oh, the HashiCorp drama. Ah, we are going in that territory. And many big and small organizations are moving away from OSS. Do you think it's fair organizations are locking out their source after a certain time of community contribution? That's a big drama.
I think yeah, it's kind of interesting for people that maybe aren't familiar with why that's even happening. Is before the current market, there was a lot of money being pumped in, and these companies were able to go a long time without charging. So what you're really seeing is people tightening up their wallets, just because that money isn't free anymore. Debt is much more expensive, so they're having to pay the bills. I know it's not pleasant. I know when Heroku did it, a lot of people were upset. But you have to understand that a lot of times that's a financial decision. We would love things for those things to be free, but you also have to understand where those organizations are coming from, and they need to start turning a profit. It's why you're seeing this all over the place, and unfortunately, it's going to keep happening for a little bit. And at some point, when companies have a lot of money to invest and investors are willing to kind of share that money, things will change again, and you're going to start seeing free products because that's their what you call a loss leader, right? They're going to give you the product for free, and then hopefully you end up paying for it. But then in this kind of market, it just simply becomes too expensive to use that as a marketing tool because people can go years on, they can use a product for years without ever, paying a penny to it. And it's just, yeah, they just can't justify that cost anymore. But I get the frustration for sure.
Yeah, I too understand. We are into the cycle of dips and ups. Right now, we are in the lower section where the everything is super high, super expensive. But eventually, it's
Yep.
a phase. It will wear off. I still remember one of the earlier startup which we did. We had around 300,000 registered users actively going back and forth. We never paid a single money because Netlify was so cheap to host, and we were switching back and forth. Just a hack, we were using Netlify and Vercel to deploys, and every 3 or 4 months we were switching from Netlify to Vercel to Netlify. We were juggling the things, and we never paid a single dime for it. So it was so easy for us, and that is the reason why we actually offered our courses in that startup for just like $2, $1.
Yeah, you're able to pass those costs on. Yeah, it's a chain reaction for sure. Everything is affected by something else.
Yeah, but now is it not? It's not possible. It's not even that bandwidth. Like things have changed now.
Yeah, for sure. But you said too, it's a cycle. So for a lot of people, I say this to younger developers. It's definitely a tougher market for them. Right now, you have a lot of experienced developers that are looking for jobs, and they're willing to work for less. So if you're newer, you're going to have to be more competitive for sure. But if you're looking for promise in the end, there is light at the end of the tunnel. We don't know how long these kind of things will last, But just look at history. A lot of times people think whatever's currently happening will last forever. When it's good, they think it's going to be good forever. When it's bad, they think it'll be bad forever. And that's just not true. Just go back and look at the last 100 years. We always go through this, and that's going to be an indicator. And what you can do in the future is use that to kind of navigate future markets and understand how to get ready. Because right now, if you can't land that job or that perfect position, maybe you can kind of adjust and use this time to study and just prep in a different way. Use it to your advantage. The more aware of it you are, and Hitesh, I'm sure you know this very well because you're insanely experienced with so many things. I think you're very aware of how these markets work. There's actually advantages to them. Just they're not
Yes.
always
I
easy to
all
see.
I always say the good thing and the bad thing about the time is it never remains same. That is its good thing. That is its bad thing.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So with one last thank note, Vishal is saying that I started learning Django from Hitesh, my ex startup, Learn Code Online. It was a pretty good name, Learn Code Online course, and
It's
then
a good search
then he
friendly name.
yeah, then he started with your Dennis's Django REST framework, and after which I developed multiple projects in Django. So thanks to both of you. Thank you so much that you got enjoyed with our both of our content. We try our best to serve the community, and I'm pretty sure Dennis will be throwing up the next video very soon. Dennis, any timeline that you would like to promise to the audience that, hey, I'm coming up with a new video?
Well, you're going to see some videos on the Appwrite YouTube channel, so make sure to check that out and subscribe there. Just look up Appwrite, and it'll be one of the top ones there. I'll be putting stuff out there, but I do also plan to start live streaming a little bit on my YouTube channel, maybe within the middle of October. I used to do a lot of these talks, and I love them. And my favorite is actually when you get 3 people on a talk. 4 is too much, but 3, you create just awesome banter, and it's a lot of fun. So Hitesh, I might be reaching out to you if you're available. I know you're very busy, but I might be
Always
reaching
available
out
for
for
you.
you.
For all these fun stuff and YouTube creators, I'm always available. Would love to join in, would love to jump in, would love to do even pair programming with you on such thing.
Awesome. Then we'll make sure to schedule it. And I'll also make sure to do one of my 12-hour live streams too. Those are really fun. It helps me not have to prepare for the video because the audience understands if you're streaming for 12 hours, it's going to be messy and you're going to be tired. And it's really fun to do that. So I'll promise you at least 2 videos in October, probably more, but that's what I'll commit to. Definitely on the Appwrite YouTube channel for sure. Because that's my
Awesome,
job
awesome.
now I don't have an option not to do it.
Oh man, it was such a fun to have you here. I'm pretty sure the audience gained so much of value out of it, and of course our editor might be watching it. He will be chopping off some of the segments in this interesting ones. Be helping him out, but it's so much good to have you. A big thank from me and the entire channel and the entire community for making such videos, making the content. It really helped everyone. Please keep doing it. Never stop for that. I know there are sometimes hate comments and all that, but on behalf of entire community, I'm taking this lead to say thank you so much for doing this.
I appreciate it, Hitesh. And yeah, thank you for having me. It's an absolute honor.
All right. So thank you so much, guys. If you haven't hit that subscribe, go ahead and hit that subscribe. If you think that these valuable conversations should reach to the people who are new to the programming world or could appreciate this thing, go ahead, grab the link, share it out. This is one of our duty as a community to spread the word around. These kinds of valuable conversation between 2 naive coders who are just discussing random stuff are good. Go ahead, share them out, and I'll be bringing you more update about, and we'll continue the things. Dennis will also now continue. That's it. Thank you so much for spending your time. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.